how can we also be conscious of our environment? And for that, we have got two amazing speakers. The first speaker is Mr. Guruprakash Sastry, who is the head of climate action at Infosys. Guruprakash Sastry is a sustainability leader with over 19 years of experience. Currently, he's heading climate action for Infosys. He's responsible for driving decarbonization and environmental sustainability initiatives across the organization. He has master's degree in sustainable energy engineering from Royal Institute of Technology. He is an IGBC fellow. I have got no idea what that is. Lead accredited professional and a certified energy auditor. For the last 15 years at Infosys, he has been instrumental in implementing several innovative technologies in building design, energy, water, and waste management. I believe somewhere if we are able to breathe in fresh oxygen, he has directly or indirectly contributed. Ladies and gentlemen, huge round of applause as we welcome Mr. Guruprakash Sastry, Head of Climate Action from Infosys. Stage is yours, sir.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. I'm not getting paid for this session though. I'm not a keynote speaker, but still. Yeah, so thanks for this opportunity to the LCR team. Maybe I should stand in the center, better. So those who are residents of Bangalore would know what is a warming planet, why I have this title for my deck. So this was one of the hottest summers that we experienced in Bangalore this time, right? So while we are all talking about business growth, how do we also make it sustainable? How do we also make it low impact to our surroundings, low impact to our societies, to our environment? So I'm going to talk about that a little bit, and I'm going to give some examples of what we have done at Infosys, which has worked, and some success stories which maybe can be replicated in other companies as well. So the ESG of business. So environment, having low impact on environment. How do you have your business grow while you have your resources consumption very low? Social, how do you impact positively the societies, the communities around you? How do you take care of employees? And the governance is, how do you integrate the E and S in your organization structure, and how ethical your business is? And what about your transparency and code of ethics? That's what the governance is about. So in simple terms, ESG means doing responsible business, being responsible towards environment, towards the communities, and being responsible in your governance. Now, coming to the E part of the ESG, because I'm heading climate action, and also heard from the announcer that this is a sustainability and environment related session mostly. And also I'll tell you why, because environment related data is more available, and it's more mature, I would say, over the last couple of decades. So that being the case, I'll have a few slides towards environment and show you what we have done here. Now, you all know climate change is a very real threat, and there's nobody, I believe, that is denying climate change as a reality today. The temperatures, global average temperatures has gone up by 1.2 degrees from the pre-industrial era, which is quite a lot considering Earth is a living ecosystem. And the carbon dioxide levels has gone up from 320 level to 420. That's purely related to what we do as humans to our planet. The growth, the development that has happened, the industrialization that has happened has caused a tremendous pressure on the ecosystem. So what's to be done? A very important factor is why technology is coming into picture here. It was because of technology, because of data, that scientists were finally able to assess and come to the conclusion that if we are going to go this way and cross 1.5 degrees, it is going to be catastrophic for the planet. So technology has enabled that. Technology has enabled prediction and simulation of large ecosystems. And that's how 15 years ago, in about 2000, late 2000s, there was a lot of work on this front, and IPCC came out with a report saying this is real and this needs to be addressed urgently. And therefore, that led to the Paris Agreement in 2015 that you all know, probably know. And that's where all the countries committed to reducing their emissions and getting to net zero somehow 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years down the line. So that's the origin of the whole thing that we're talking about. Because of data, because of the technology, we were able to pinpoint where the problem was. See the importance of data here. And by 2050 is what we need to achieve net zero emissions. Our net emissions into the atmosphere has to be zero if we have to avoid catastrophic consequences on the planet. And this is possible through different technologies. Of course, you need to reduce your emissions through efficiencies. You need to transition to climate friendly technologies, renewable energy, and also remove carbon from the atmosphere through different projects. Easier said than done. It needs large-scale action and very urgent. And also a huge behavioral change. We need to also look at our behavior on consumption. If we don't reduce our consumption and continue to consume at the same rate and talk about shifting to renewable energy and things like that, none of the global goals are going to be met. So, towards net zero emissions, is that enough? It's only the emissions that is causing the issue here. What about water? Also net zero water. How do we recycle all the used water in a better way? How about zero waste to landfills? You know the mounds of landfills that we have globally. Not only landfills, even ocean fills and sea fills, floating islands of trash that you might have heard about. So it requires efforts on all three areas. Now, the first and foremost thing, as I said, reduce emissions. Without reduction, no other step is really practical. Avoid emissions, and then look at removals. So I'll give you the example of Infosys, what we have done here. Energy efficiency is one of the key factors to reduce emissions. Energy efficiency in every single process. We have, of course, being an IT company, being in the IT sector, we have talked about buildings. We have done efforts across our buildings, but every sector needs to improve efficiency and reduce the energy intensity or emissions intensity if we have to achieve any of our climate goals. Through renewable energy, avoided emissions, and then we invested in carbon offset projects. So this has achieved us the carbon neutral certification. So Infosys is carbon neutral for the last 5 years because of these efforts. What is very important here is the approach. The first and foremost has to always be improve your efficiency, improve your operations, and reduce consumption as much as possible. Just to give you an idea, building sector today is responsible for 37% of global emissions. So if you are looking at anything to do with building sector, it can be materials, it can be energy generation and supply, it can be operations, it can be monitoring. So this is what you are impacting. Some of the things that we have done. How do you improve energy efficiency? By smart designs. You have tools today. You have the technology to actually design your building in a very efficient way. Optimize everything in the building, starting from the structure to glass to your equipment capacities and everything. Data-driven designs. Today we have data from buildings, so we don't have thumb rules. You don't need to depend on thumb rule data to design anything in your building. It should be data-driven designs. And we have building information modeling. You can actually put all the systems within the building and see which one works the best for that particular weather condition. And you can do all this parametric analysis to see which option works best for you. Similarly, smart operations. Look at the operations. We monitor every single building, every equipment, every system, down to the lowest level of operations. So this is what has given us enough data and continuous optimization, and also gives us insights on what is going wrong where, and immediately we can take action. Similarly, water. Some of the very important things, and even here, technology. Why I'm talking about technology? We did smart water metering. We were able to fix a lot of leakages across our system, which we never knew about until we put the smart meters. You know what is the leakage level in, or rather unaccounted water in the Bangalore water supply network? Any guess? Yeah, it was 45% earlier, and a few years back, the then Commissioner Tushar Girinath, he was very proudly saying, we are now at just 36%. Yeah, so 36% is a big achievement for BWSSB. 36% wastage or unaccounted water. So, so some of these have really helped us, and things like sensor-based taps, low-flow taps, these have reduced our water consumption really very, very significantly. Similarly, on waste management, I think we were one of the first companies to install automation on a biogas plant. Our biogas plant runs on food waste, and we have installed automation on this plant so that you can actually monitor how much gas is generated on a daily basis. And this report is going to the operations team. And what this does is it makes sure that you have a payback on this very quickly. This plant payback was less than 2 years. And we've made sure of this by proper operations and through the automation and monitoring. So what it has impacted on the organization overall, our per capita electricity reduced by 55% in 12 years. So that means it's an avoided 2 billion kilowatt hour. It's a huge amount. Similarly, water per capita reduced by 64%. It reduced from 109 liters per person per day to 39 liters. This is including everything in the campus, including all the landscaping. You know what does the National Building Code say for office water consumption? It's 45 liters per person per day, only for the office building. Our office buildings are designed at 24 liters per person per day, out of which fresh water is only 15 liters. So it's 1/3 of the code, and it's very easily possible. It's some very simple technologies that we have used, like low flow taps, pressure compensating aerators, and so on. Through the energy efficiency, what we have realized is, while our number of employees across Infosys has gone up by 2.6 times in 12 years, our electricity bills went up only by 20%. So which means we were able to kind of decouple business growth and resource consumption. That should always be the objective. Business growth has to be decoupled from the resource consumption. Then only you have the most minimum impact on your surroundings. And emissions intensity, we're talking about emissions intensity because, every country is supposed to reduce its emissions intensity per GDP and so on. So our emissions intensity has reduced by 92% on scope 1 and 2 in the last 15 years. And if you take all scope 1, 2 and 3 emissions, it's reduced by about 80%. So these are all emissions that are attributable to Infosys as a company. It includes our electricity consumption, fuel consumption, it includes our travel, it includes also our work from home related emissions. So all of these put together, this is the reduction that we have seen, and it's possible. And we are at about 0.1 kg of CO2 per dollar revenue, 0.12. And you know what is India's emissions intensity in terms of per GDP? It's about 0.3. And the highest is China at 0.5. So that's the kind of difference that you can see at a company level when you have so many systems running. So last couple of slides I have on what is the opportunity for technology here. Because it's a tech summit, we're looking at how technology has enabled us. So technology enables data, and data gives us insights, analytics, and helps us in informed decisions. And this is how you get to the next level of efficiency. This is how you can reduce. It gives you the avenues for reduction. And it also helps us drive all the ESG metrics across our value chain, our suppliers. You know, there's a mandate from this year that the entire supply chain emissions have to be reported for top companies in India. So that's going to happen only if we can collect data through a proper channel. And this is where I think we need the right tools, right technology to capture this data in an effective manner. Every sector, buildings, process, renewable energy, look at monitoring. We have today in India 195 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity, out of which nearly 80 gigawatt is solar. And do you think the solar monitoring is happening? Are we making sure that this 80 gigawatt of solar is generating the amount of energy it's supposed to generate? I'm not sure. Even in our plants, we have about 60 megawatt of solar of our own. Even in our plants, at any point of time, 5 to 10%, there is a downtime of the panels. Just imagine 80 gigawatt at India level, what kind of maintenance is happening? Because we have accurate monitoring, we can fix it immediately. We can fix the issue, we can replace the maybe inverter or the panel or some cable has gone off. It can be done very quickly. And the losses can be minimized. And here, we're talking about 80 gigawatt on an India level. So that's a huge opportunity for efficient monitoring and making sure we are running our systems to the capacity, to the best capacity. And what's the scale we are looking at? Even today, when we are talking so much about ESG and so much mandates globally, just 51% of the top 100 companies disclosed scope 3 emissions, which is the scope 3 data, which is the supplier related, indirect emissions, supply or transport related, travel related. Just 51% of the companies. Why? They don't have the data. They don't know how to capture the data. So that's an amazing opportunity that we have. Efficiency improvement, and look at the infrastructure addition, global floor area addition, 350 billion square foot by 2030. 350 billion square foot of space is going to be added. And if we are not going to make them efficient from the design to the materials to the operations and make sure these are really efficient, then we are locking in inefficiency for 50 years. Building lifetime of 50 years, right? So that's the kind of opportunity we have today. And India contributes 1/6 of that. 50 billion, 60 billion square foot of that will be happening in India. Huge opportunity for us to change the course and take a transformative approach here. And while all this is happening, in the last 10 years, this was a OpenAI research, computing power to train AI models doubled every 3.5 months. Every 3.5 months, the computing power is doubled. So that's a challenge, because emissions of ICT today stands at about 3 to 4%, I guess, in the overall emissions. It's going to reach 14% of global emissions by 2040. What is this mainly coming from? Data centers, server rooms, all the critical equipment. This is a big challenge. We are going to increase the computing power. We are going to have a tremendous stress on all the systems, because it requires a lot of power, because of which emissions and so on. But it's also an opportunity to design the data centers, design this equipment in a super efficient way. We should look at a PUE of very close to 1 if we are to really take a transformative path for data centers. So that's the kind of opportunity we have. With this, I leave you with a positive note of the huge amount of opportunities we have where technology can take us on a much more transformative and sustainable path. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guruprakash Sastry sir. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect in this particular session. I thought it would be a lot of theory and gyan and saying that we need to be more conscious about our environment, we need to do this, we need to do that. But what I saw really fascinating is in almost every slide, there was numbers, there was data. Now it reminds me of what Peter Drucker, the famous management guru, said. What gets measured gets managed. And what is that only thing we can measure? Numbers, data. So thank you for walking the talk and showing what's happening with Infosys. And the best thing is you said it is simple. Again, he was choosing that word very carefully. He didn't say easy, he said simple. Now you got to the bottom of the water consumption per person in Infosys. Amazing. In the morning, Narayan Murthy sir was here, and he said before starting Infosys, when he was having a chat with the fellow colleagues, he said, I want to build a company that will be respected. Look at that. It is in the DNA in their culture. Huge round of applause to Guruprakash Sastry sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will go ahead with the next speaker.
Thank you. One thing I just want to mention, since you mentioned about Mr. Murthy, he always used to tell us, he took a very keen interest in all of this, because sustainability was very close to his heart. He always used to tell us, in God I trust, everybody else brings data.
Yes.
It was a very famous saying. So
thank you.